Title: Why are Washington Democrats selling us Republican incrementalism? By Darren Ray Fonso. In the heart of Washington state, a pressing question looms over the political landscape. Why are local Democrats, who traditionally championed progressive values, seemingly endorsing a Republican-style approach of incrementalism, especially in matters of workers' compensation and health care reform? As a Washington resident and an advocate for injured workers' rights, I've observed with growing concern how state initiatives like Whole Washington, while well-intentioned, may not fully address the systemic issues plaguing our healthcare system. These state-based solutions, rather than offering the comprehensive reform promised, appear to perpetuate a fragmented approach, reminiscent of Republican incrementalism. The case in point is the workers' compensation system in Washington state. Despite the state being a Democratic stronghold, injured workers like myself face a labyrinthine system that lacks federal consistency and oversight. The disparities in treatment and compensation for similar injuries across different states highlight a glaring issue: the absence of minimum federal standards in workers' compensation. This inconsistency is not just a bureaucratic oversight, it's a matter of basic human rights. The current system, with its state-by-state variability, fails to provide equitable treatment to all injured workers. This is where the need for a national solution, such as Medicare for all, becomes evident. Yet, some of our elected Democratic representatives, including State Senator Bob Hasagawa and Representative Rick Larson, have shown reluctance in championing such comprehensive reforms. The question then arises, why are these Democratic leaders, who are expected to uphold progressive values, seemingly aligning with a Republican playbook of incremental changes? This approach, while offering piecemeal solutions, falls short of addressing the root problems of our healthcare system. As a state that prides itself on progressive action, Washington's adherence to this form of incrementalism is both puzzling and concerning. It raises doubts about the commitment of our Democratic leaders to the principles of equity, justice, and comprehensive reform. The voices of those directly affected by these issues, like mine, are often drowned out in the political discourse. It's time for our representatives to realign with the progressive values they profess and take decisive action towards establishing minimum federal standards in workers' compensation and embracing national healthcare solutions like Medicare for all. The residents of Washington state deserve a healthcare system that is equitable, accessible, and consistent across all states. We need our Democratic leaders to step up and advocate for these changes, rather than settling for half measures that leave many behind. In conclusion, the shift towards Republican-style incrementalism by Washington Democrats raises critical questions about their commitment to progressive reform. As constituents, we call for transparency, accountability, and a return to the comprehensive, bold actions that truly represent the values of the Democratic Party. The fight for national reforms, Medicare for all and federal workers' compensation standards, Medicare for all, advocates for M4A argue for a single, national health insurance program covering all Americans, ensuring equal access to health care regardless of where they live. Minimum federal standards for workers' compensation. Similarly, there is a call for establishing minimum federal standards for workers' compensation. This would create a baseline for how injured workers are treated, ensuring fairness and consistency nationwide. National Workers' Compensation Commission. Establishing a national commission would allow for the evaluation and oversight of workers' compensation systems across the country, addressing disparities and inefficiencies in the current state-by-state approach. Unified effort for comprehensive reform. By advocating for M4A alongside minimum federal standards for workers' compensation, there is an opportunity to unify efforts towards comprehensive national reform. This approach seeks to ensure that all Americans have access to equitable health care and fair treatment in the event of workplace injuries. Conclusion: while state single-payer systems and state-managed workers' compensation efforts may provide some benefits, they are viewed by some as incremental and insufficient in addressing the broader issues of healthcare access and workers' rights. A unified push for Medicare for all, coupled with the establishment of minimum federal standards for workers' compensation and a national commission, represents a more comprehensive and equitable approach to reforming healthcare and workers' compensation in the United States. This approach aligns with the principles of ensuring equal rights and access for all citizens, transcending state boundaries and creating a more cohesive and fair system nationwide. Please stop having our Washington state Democrats PCOs sell us Republican candidates like Scott Stanton and Tamborine Borelli. As a lifelong Democrat, I am disgusted by my own Democrats' PCOs telling me to vote for Republican candidates and Republican incrementalism whole Washington state single payer, while silencing those of U.S. fighting for the workers' federal human rights. If Washington state is doing such a great job in its workers' compensation system, then it should not fear many federal laws that would help all of America's workers, not just the ones in Washington state.